Today, on Locked On Phoenix Suns, back in the win column, led by a big shot late by Kevin Durant and a perfect Bud Ball win. Let's break down the Saturday W for the Suns next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Sunday. A bonus episode for you after the holiday weekend. Don't forget Locked On Suns, guys. Free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, so click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here, of course, each and every day. Today's episode, guys, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel where new customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Starting with our moment of the game, as we always do here, this Suns win, 113-105, did veer into clutch time with a late Steph Curry layup. But that ended very quickly with, I believe, a Devin Booker free throw. But we really pick up at 1 minute and 42 seconds. Look, the Suns were already up 6 at this point, but that was getting a little bit tenuous, okay? There was a Wiggins 3, there was a Tyus Jones turnover, and there was a Kuminga dunk. Now, this game, getting to the 5-point mark before the Booker free throws, the clutch time stuff, was actually after this, but this moment was the defining one because things were getting a little bit dicey. The Warriors come out in a full court press a lot of the fourth quarter. They start to get some offense going, and it was this three-pointer at 1 minute and 42 seconds that, to me, was the momentum shift of the game. Again, Book makes some free throws late. The lead did get narrower momentarily, but that stuff is just the late-game foul baiting and, the possession game that gets played. This 1 minute and 42 second mark shot was the deciding one for sure. But it wasn't just that Kevin Durant made a big shot. It wasn't just a cool moment or a big play. I mean, honestly, this game was won on defense and some other things which we'll talk about. What was cool about this play is that it, to me, illustrated the evolution of the Suns' offense overall, okay? The fact that, I always do this, but I think it's always worth remembering, rewinding back to last season, right? How often did we talk about two things when it came to Kevin Durant and his offensive role, right? We would talk about the fact that KD was either having to do too much or was not being involved enough. Those are the polar opposite, but it almost felt like every night it was one or the other. He was either, without both of Booker and Beal, or even sometimes when those guys were healthy last season, he was isolating, running a lot of pick and roll without a lot of scheme and motion and spacing to make life easier on him. Or the other two guys, and or a Grayson Allen, for instance, or a Yusuf Nurkic, were dominating everything, and Durant was, whether you want to call him a decoy or a spacer or whatever the case might have been, and you look up and he's not taking enough shots. This moment, which fully was just a spot-up three late in the game where Draymond Green did not forget where Kevin Durant was. Draymond was actually the guy who leapt out to remember where he was. But initially, this is supposed to be a situation. Draymond calls for a switch. He tells Podziemski to go out there on the perimeter because he thinks that he has to guard the paint, has to be a rim protector. But Podziemski, no need, never mind. Draymond is pointing. There's some miscommunication. And it results with KD having a split second open in a big defining possession of the game. The idea of Kevin Durant getting an open, in rhythm jumper set up by somebody else late in any game last season would have been pretty unthinkable, even considering that Beal and Booker were often playing point guard for this group. Big stuff. It sounds so simple, but it's not. They were able to get an easy look for their best scorer with the game on the line. That's what coaching is for, and that's also what point guards are for, which is the other part of this that I wanted to shout out, right? Because it's one thing for that miscommunication to happen. It's one thing to make the defense on that weak side have to kind of think and adjust and move and everything else. It's another for that play to actually go there. And so a big shout out to Tyus Jones, who is basically setting up a high pick and roll with Grayson Allen. I believe to probably get a switch with Steph Curry is my guess, and then maybe go over and flow into something with Devin Booker, who's sort of near that play, to then get Book isolated on Steph. They were doing that a lot. But as soon as Grayson sets the screen, Steph does switch onto Tyus, but at that exact moment is when KD pops open, and Book is already getting ready to come over there. Tyus says, no, I'm waving everything off, and I see 35 wide open for three. I'm hitting him, and we're going to win this game, and that's exactly what happens. So it's both things, right? It is having a coach who is going to manipulate things, obviously more talent on the court than last year, but also a point guard who has his head on a swivel, who has a sense of awareness of the rest of the court and what the defense is doing, and is able to deliver that pass on time, on target, out of the flow of what the play was supposed to be, to go from a good matchup hunting type of situation to a great look for Kevin Durant. You take it 10 times out of 10. A lot of stuff coming together in that moment. A lot of stuff also coming together in this game, big picture. One of, not the only, but one of the best illustrations tonight of Bud Ball in this win. I'll tell you what I mean by that coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by Skylight. If you're missing someone this holiday season and want them to be part of your festivities from afar, we've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame for your family, your whole family, that everybody will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's easy to use. Less than 60 seconds to set it up. You can add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere, just with one tap, adding new photos to a frame from anywhere. Fastest, easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. And it looks beautiful in your home. Photos are displayed in HD resolution. You can choose from 5 different frame styles. Look, I have a grandparent who has one of these, but it's not Skylight. And let me tell you, it's not as good. You got to send it through an email. You got to do all this sort of stuff that is impossible. What I love about Skylight is the easiness and the customization. So it's not just random. It's not just crossing your fingers it gets there. It is that easy. Better than social media, better than the other brands. Skylight is perfect for anybody who wants to have that closeness this holiday season. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's SkylightFrame.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. All right, let's keep the show rolling here. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter in your inbox every day, getting caught up with the best analysis anywhere of the NBA and the Suns. Stay up to date with the new episodes of this show and support this show. Most importantly, literally free for you. And Ben and I get a little bit of that money back into our pockets. So a little goes a long way in terms of the effort on your part. We would really appreciate it. Speaking of Ben, he is just out of town. One more episode, just me, on Monday. And then Ben will be back for the rest of the week for here on out. Actually, I'll be out of town next weekend. So a little bit of travel, but appreciate you bearing with us. Let's keep this thing rolling as we get to Bud Ball. What do I mean by that? Well, let's start with the obvious. Let's start with the thing that we probably, heading into the season, most associated with Mike Budenholzer, which is three-point shooting, right? So Golden State actually took more threes in this game than the Suns. Probably not a huge surprise. Andrew Wiggins takes 9. Draymond even adds to the explosion with 5 attempts of his own. He's shooting more, making more this year, but of course Steph Curry with 10 attempts. The problem is that the Warriors only made 14. So a respectable but below average 35%. Not quite what they wanted it to be. On the other end, the Suns shoot more than 50%. 51.4% from deep, 18 of 35. And I know we hate the modern NBA reality of the team that shoots better from back there often wins, but it was an 8-point game. The Suns got 12 more points from deep, and sometimes it really is that simple. But that is not, it may be a big reason the Suns won the game. It is not the only thing about this game that illustrates the Bud Ball phenomenon that I'm trying to talk about here, okay? The other aspects of this are assists to turnovers. 31 assists, just 12 turnovers. So ball was moving. And within that, I mean, look, not a lot of fast break points, not a lot of points off of turnovers. I wouldn't say that the pace was some sort of astronomical thing here, but opportunistically running in transition and just getting the ball moving. I mean, there was a possession that I'm sure everybody remembers as I get my notebook out here. Let me make sure that I have it right. It was the Grayson Allen 3 where the ball moved about 150,000 times. I have 2 stars next to it, which is what I do, 1 star for a really good play, 2 stars for a great play type situation. 6-minute and 50-second mark of the second quarter. Basically a shot clock buzzer-beating 3 by Grayson Allen because the team just kept moving it and moving it and moving it. There's an open corner 3 at one point, drive kick, and then, okay, crap, shot clock's going down, and Tyus Jones taps it from the right wing to basically the top of the arc to Grayson Allen to punctuate that play that honestly would have made the Chris Paul, Monty Williams sons sneeze for how great it was. So, look, that's another example. And the other one, last but certainly not least, element of this whole Bud Ball win is the defense. And that was what, frankly, everybody talked about after the game, from Bud himself to Book to KD. It was the game plan discipline on the defensive end. And I'll get a little bit more into this when I talk about the rookies and the defensive statistics in the last segment in just a moment. But the discipline is a big part of this. The preparation for specific teams, matching up with them, what to be aware of, and executing that stuff continues to be very, very impressive under Mike Budenholzer, considering we're still not even 20 games into this season, guys. I mean, I sang Bud's praises for this very thing after the Minnesota game, despite it being a loss, not what you want to see, but the double big starting lineup in that game, you've heard me reference it multiple times since. That's impressive. I don't even care about how. I really don't even care what the game plan was, and I don't care that the Suns lost that game. What I am trying to get across is how rare it is and how impressive it is in the regular season in the NBA in this day and age to have a team try things that are unique and execute them on a day or two's notice like the regular season allows you, right? So this wasn't any sort of big lineup change. I mean, I haven't said it yet. No Bradley Beal, no Yusuf Nurkic. Probably should have established that sooner, but I'm sure you knew it already. And so, yes, Mason Plumlee starts, Grayson Allen starts. There was more Oso Ighodaro, for instance, than maybe we're used to, but this case was the Warriors demanding that level of game plan development, like being ready, having a coach that can put things into place, and then, of course, the players going out and doing it. The Warriors just make you be that kind of team because of the presence of Steph Curry, because of the fact that they basically have Draymond as a point center type of player and shooting all over the place and crazy cuts and screens off the ball that you're having to pay attention to with a Buddy Hield or a Brandon Pajemski or an Andrew Wiggins. They make you be that. And the Suns executed it. Multiple different players guarding Steph Curry. Multiple different schemes in terms of, are we switching? Are we not switching? What are we doing when we have Plumlee in versus Oso? Things like that. Is our big man actually always guarding their big man? All these things that you have to be committed to and attentive to in order to beat this team. The Suns absolutely did it. And that is another virtue of how much they are clicking with this new head coach. So, 3-point shooting, yes. Selectively, pace and moving the ball, yes. And, of course, the defensive execution. Honestly, I would throw one more thing in there, too, before I jump over to the final segment. We talk about randomness with Bud, right? What does that mean? Yeah, okay, you can point to the Oso dunk, the lob dunk off of the cut, which I believe I guess I didn't write that one down. Or you can point to what? What's another example? I mean, that play with the Grayson Allen 3 that I talked about. The, frankly, Kevin Durant 3 that I broke down in the first segment as the moment of the game. But the other part of the randomness that I continue to just love to see is that they're doing all this stuff. Read and react, right? And yet, you look up at the end of the game, Book and KD, the only guys taking double-digit shots. Randomness with a plan. Spontaneous basketball is what I called it all last season before we even had a coach in the Valley who actually preached random basketball. Kevin Durant was kind of preaching it, and I latched onto that, and I talked about it a bunch here on the show. And I use the word spontaneous because that felt a little bit more purposeful to me, right? It's opportunistic. And it takes another level of focus and commitment to say, we're playing this random way, but we know what we're trying to get, which is mostly 35-1 taking shots when it really matters. And that's exactly what happened. So the Suns have an advantage in most of these games. Steve Kerr is a great coach. Maybe tonight the advantage part might not be true, but certainly it is making them a better team to have Mike Budenholzer in his place and for the buy-in to be there the way that it has been. Signature Bud Ball win. All right, let's look at the defensive stats, the rookies, and one more statistic. Big picture for the season before we wrap up. First, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook all season long. That's because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. All right, let's look at the NFL weekend upcoming here. Who is the biggest favorite? Who is going to get you that $150 in bonus bets? I believe that it was actually the Chiefs heading into the weekend, and they barely scraped by, but you do have the Commanders at home. I'm not sure if we here in the Valley want to bet on Cliff Kingsbury. Minus 270, though, for the Commanders. You also have on Sunday the Grizzlies favored minus 310, the Knicks favored minus 750. Any of those feel good. Get that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet, and then have some fun and get to work on the more interesting stuff, all at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Closing out the show, alrighty. The closeout, as I like to call it, which is Ben's favorite little phrase. Not really. What do we got here? Magic number. Let's get that off the bat. Okay, actually I have two, but one of them is really just going to be part of Rookie Watch. So let's start with the magic number, the real one that I wanted to look at, which is the Suns in the clutch. Now, tonight barely counts, just as an overall heads up, because as I mentioned, the Steph layup a moment after that KD 3 technically cut the lead from 7 to 5. Clutch game, as the NBA defines it, is does the game at any point within the final 5 minutes come within 5 points in the deficit? And it did. So technically this counts, and it's a good opportunity to just check in on the Suns' clutch performance, all right? The Suns have played almost as many clutch games as anybody. The most in the league is 13. Charlotte, Indiana, and Minnesota have all played 13 games, but the Suns have played 10, and that puts them at a tie for basically in the 12-ish range in the NBA. So more often than most teams have played. But their point differential is actually 7th best. So they have been the 7th best team when it comes to what they're doing in those clutch games, and they also have the best win percentage of any team in the clutch with 8 wins in 10 clutch games. The last time the Suns played a clutch game, as I'm sure you'll remember as soon as I say it, was the Minnesota Timberwolves game on the road on November 17th. They also were in the clutch. I don't think the Utah game ever got there. It may have. And then, of course, the overtime game in the first one without Durant on November 10th against the Kings at home. And then before that, it was like every freaking night was a clutch game, so you don't need me to go back that far. But it's been a minute. Obviously, without Beal and Durant, they struggled. They blew out the Lakers, and then they got, beaten by Brooklyn the other night. So it's been a minute, but here we are, and the Suns get another win in that category. Plus 17 is a mile and a mile and a mile better than where they ever were last season. 8 out of 10 wins is a fantastic place to be. And some of this is going to be luck, as we saw with the Julius Randle travel and what I still feel could have been called as a push-off, even if the last 2-minute report did not say so. Some of those games are going to go the other way. The overtime against the Kings where Fox just goes crazy. That's going to happen. It's okay. But it's nice to see the majority, the vast majority, going the Suns' way. All right. Rookie watch. So a big part of this game, no Yusuf Nurkic again, just to remind you. Mason Plumlee starts, but Oso Ighodaro basically doubles him up in minutes. And let me just get the first thing out of the way first, right? This is going to continue to be matchup based, okay? Like, let's not pretend otherwise. It just is what it is. But there's not a lot of matchups where he cannot succeed. Okay, there's going to be some where he's better than others, but as long as the team does not have a dominant rim running threat like a Derek Lively, or let's just say Derek Lively, but I would even say like maybe an Isaiah Hartenstein if we're thinking about the Western Conference, those types of players, or a big post-up scoring threat, which, frankly, that's even fewer players, right? Are we talking about like a Ivica Zubac maybe on the lower end, and then obviously, an Embiid or a Jokic on the highest end? unless it's teams with those exact types of players that are going to physically overwhelm Oso, he's going to be able to play, right? Trace Jackson-Davis maybe could have been a lively type of guy, but he's inconsistent in other ways, not an awesome defensive player yet, and so he did not play much today. Kevon Looney is a ground-bound older player at this point, and then Draymond is, small ball guy, so it worked for Oso. And again, it's going to in a lot of matchups, which is why you've seen him getting minutes despite some of those physical limitations and despite the fact, frankly, that he is still developing as a player. But I thought he really chipped in on the glass today. He continues to just be a smart ball mover, even though he did not have an assist tonight. He can finish when he's around the basket. And tonight, most importantly, he was able to act as a rim protector. But now that Kevin Durant is back, Ryan Dunn has continued to develop. And even other players like, Royce O'Neal or Grayson Allen or Devin Booker, the Suns can stack up some bigger lineups than they were able to last year or that they were able to when Durant was out. Oso can play center. All right? The matchup of the other team is one thing. The way that the Suns put together lineups around him is the other thing that allows him to even be on the floor, let alone be impactful in the modern NBA with the level of size that is often out there. And so tonight, again, Oso had a couple of blocks of his own. I don't want to pretend like he didn't, but you also saw Durant and Ryan Dunn get in on that block party. 9 blocks could have easily been our magic number tonight because that's impressive. And Mason Plumlee had 2 in his 16 minutes, but he obviously didn't play with Oso much at all. I don't think he did at all tonight. But when you're having that secondary rim protection, then what you're able to do is use what makes Oso special, which is he can switch onto smaller players at times. He can move his feet and maybe blitz or hedge or, try to blow up a pick and roll, get the ball out of that ball handler's hands more often. That's what you want to use him to do because that's his secret power. That's his, best skill set as a defensive big. When you have Durant on that back line protecting the rim, blocking shots, when you have Ryan Dunn doing the same thing, it unlocks all of the parts of Oso to really maximize him. So, big game for that. Throw Ryan Dunn in there with that rookie watch as well. That will wrap us up. There were 2 magic numbers tucked within there, as well as the rookie watch. One more episode without Ben for you tomorrow, and then we will be reunited for the rest of this week. Spurs on Tuesday, somebody on Thursday. Who do the Suns play on Thursday? You'll already know. You don't need me to tell you. I'll look it up. Look, I'm sitting right here. The New Orleans Pelicans, who are about the most injury-riddled team in the NBA on Thursday. Hit follow, subscribe, become an everydayer. Get both of those recap episodes in your feed, plus much more content along the way. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'll talk to you next time.